the concept of good and evil. Growing up in a Christian background, I was led to believe there was a fundamental difference between good and evil, light and dark, God and the devil. But what I bring up is a concept that there is no difference, because studying nature, we are led to believe that there is no such thing as morality. Because we see here the deer sensing danger as it gives birth to its calf, and upon sensing the danger, it immediately abandons its calf. And the leopard arrives and it senses another observer. There's a lot of things going on here. It might be protecting its game or thinking about eating it, but in the end we do not know what the leopard is thinking. And in the end the leopard shall eat. So why I bring up the concepts of good and evil in the eyes of nature is because I bring up the claim good and evil is just a human construct, a human concept, something we fabricated. But one can argue that, hey, it's an animal. We're fundamentally different. Animals don't have the social interactions that we humans do. But that is not the case. We see elephants. They're very sociable beings. This is one of their herds. And upon the death of one of their matriarchs, they'll do something strange and irregular in their behavioral patterns. They'll stand upwards up to one day, if not as long as 4 days. And this is very irregular in their behavioral patterns because they have to eat throughout the day. So they'll be scavenging for food for upwards up to 20 hours a day because of how big they are. And then we see here elephants playing with each other. So they show signs of feelings of happiness and sadness and pain as well. So we see here an elephant has been shot by poachers and the bullet has missed its target. So the bullet is still inside the elephant's head and it's getting infected and it's hurting and it's asking the humans for help and the humans do help. So there is signs of intelligence and signs of pain and happiness and sadness through animals. So why do I bring these concepts up? Why do I bring up animals and nature? Because there's no concept of good and evil in nature, because that is something we as humans have constructed and fabricated in our image. One can come up to the realization that rationalizing your actions based on good and evil is your construct alone. You can come up with a rationalization for anything. For example, Genghis Khan bringing order from chaos in his image through his own means, raping and pillaging millions upon millions of lives. And we see here the first crusades, Christians and Muslims killing each other for their own justifications of good and evil, for their own basis of good and evil. Who is the one correct then? Who is the one living the correct life in these bases of assumptions? We see here the fight of their Holy Land, Jerusalem. And this is one of the historical battles that showed the brutality of humanity, of who is correct, who is right in these situations, who is the one that knows the answers to life and all its questions. It's their God. It's the perceiver's own justification of good and evil, because both of them are fighting for good and the opposition is fighting for evil. So who is to say which one is correct? It is the eyes of the perceiver. It is their perception of what good and evil is. So who's to say who's right and who's left when the opposition is always the one that is in the wrong? Why do I bring this up? Why do I even bring up the concepts of good and evil? Maybe we're not supposed to be fighting one another. Maybe we're not supposed to be hurting one another. We're supposed to be living in a rational, justified version of reality that uplifts one another rather than hurts one another. And I'll leave you with this, a pale blue dot by Carl Sagan.
Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, Every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.